Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to today's webinar presentation. This is the second webinar of a six-part series that will run every Thursday until May 7th as part of our Forest Invasives Spring Series. My name is David Nisbet, and I am the coordinator for the Forest Invasives project at the Invasive Species Centre in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. The Invasive Species Centre is a nonprofit organization created in 2011. We connect stakeholders, knowledge, and technology to prevent and control the spread of invasive species that harm Canada's environment, economy, and society. We build networks of experts and stakeholders to identify and act on priority invasive species. We provide funding, coordinate, and lead projects in natural and applied science, technology transfer, outreach, and education. And we consolidate and disseminate information to raise awareness, leading to the prevention of harmful invasive species. If you want to learn more about the ISC, you can visit our website at www.invasivespeciescentre.ca. Our speaker today is Paul Hambidge, who is the Urban Forest Specialist at the City of Peterborough. Paul is an urban forester and consulting arborist with over 30 years' experience in the UK, Europe, and Ontario. Paul is a UK Chartered Forester, an International Society of Arboriculture Board-Certified Master Arborist, and an ISA Certified Municipal Specialist. He is also a Quantified Tree Risk Assessment Licensed Assessor. Paul came to arboriculture from a horticultural and landscape background, spending many years in municipal parks management as an urban forester. This was followed by 10 years practicing as a consulting arborist in the private sector, where he undertook a wide range of planning and risk management projects for both public and private clients. Paul has returned to municipal service and is currently an urban forest specialist with the City of Peterborough, Ontario. The focus of his work for the past 3 years has been the management of emerald ash borer. Paul has written the city's EAB management plan and update report and is currently actively engaged in all aspects of implementing the plan across the city. If you have a question for Paul during the presentation, please enter it into the side panel of the GoToWebinar program, and we will do our best to answer as many questions as possible with the remaining time at the end of the webinar. At this time, I would like to turn the presentation over to Paul, and he will take it from here.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hopefully everybody can hear me. Thank you, David, and thanks to the Invasive Species Centre for inviting me to talk about the Emerald Ash Borer program in the City of Peterborough. Before I get started, I would like to just acknowledge the help and the assistance of many individuals in municipal urban forestry and government agencies such as the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry, the Canadian Forest Service, Bioforest themselves, and also Deb McCullough at Michigan State University. All of those people really have helped no end in guiding us and helping us shape our plan and our strategic actions as well. We do constantly examine those, we update our management plan, we review them, we modify any of our actions as necessary, and we're constantly trying to keep ahead of things and also use the best practices possible. So my presentation then was really focused on, or is really focused on, public awareness and our proactive management. We do have, if you like, the luxury in Peterborough of being, or what we hope anyway, being ahead of things, and we hope that by being ahead that we can use those best practices from other people and implement those to get the most efficient way of working with emerald ash borer. So in summary then, what I want to talk about today is the preparation that we made for EAB back in 2013, the strategic management that we've implemented since then and ongoing, and the public awareness or the public education and outreach program that we've taken on really. preparing for arrival then in 2014, there's a number of topics there. There's the awareness of EAB and the perspective of EAB, the recognition that it's a destructive species, an invasive species, looking really and talking with people about really, does ash have a future in the forest, in the urban forest? Is treatment just putting off the inevitable? Do we want to transition ash out of the urban forest? And the limitations of treatment and biocontrols in the future. The collaborative working, as I've spoken of, we work with other people and we continue that, and we came in at a very early stage and got involved with other municipal urban foresters who gave us some great information and got us on the road. Inventory, well, we didn't have an inventory, and I guess in many municipalities there may not be inventory, and this is probably the single most important thing that we're up against. We can't really manage what we don't know, and unless we get an inventory in place, we're not really going to know how to tackle the problem and obviously the resources that we need to deal with it. And then ongoing is monitoring and assessment, which is most important. We need to know the progress of EAB, or in many cases when it actually arrives, position ourselves on the chart, if you like, on the curve, and constantly assess when trees die and when they become a risk. So this is something that we show at our presentations, and I guess many of you may have seen this slide before. Really the take-home message there is the devastating just visual as well as environmental effect that a loss of a whole street lined with ash trees can be to a local neighborhood, to the community in general, and of course to the urban forest. So there we see obviously that the trees are relatively healthy, and then in a very short period of time most of them succumb. Also another point we make, and I'm sure many of you are aware of, is the aesthetic benefits of trees. It's not just about losing trees and the environmental impact that has. It's also about really what the neighborhood looks like afterwards, after the trees need to be removed if they're not treated. And ultimately on the right hand side there, that's a less desirable neighborhood to live in. I'm sure most people will agree. So a little bit about the life history, if you like, the life cycle. I'm sure many of you may know about it, but really if we start in the top left there with the adult, and that will, after emerging from the tree, it will fly to the top of the tree and complete maturation feeding. They'll then mate. The female will lay eggs, up to perhaps 100 eggs, and they'll generally tend to be distributed over the bark of the tree rather than in clumps, in bark crevices. They will hatch, bore into the bark. The larvae will develop, probably go through about 4 stages, and that will occur over the season, sort of around June to August, September time, and it will then overwinter. It will form into a J shape and overwinter, and then form into a pupa and emerge probably the following spring, around about really it's around about the time that a locust tree will flower. For us in Peterborough, it's about the second week in June. And that's again the point that we stress with people when we do our presentation and take it out and talk to council and the public, the damage that we have there underneath the bark. It's a cambium feeder. It's destroying the cambium and phloem cells of the tree and gradually starving the tree to death. On that right-hand side there, they're the feeding galleries, which are characteristically serpentine shaped in an S shape. The second one there, that's a picture from Oshawa there, where we strip the bark off a tree, and you'll see those characteristic feeding galleries there, and there's actually a couple of pupa in there waiting to emerge, although they didn't quite get to develop into adults and emerge. And then characteristically there on the left hand side, those D-shaped exit holes which are left by the beetle as it chews its way out from the bark, ready to fly to the top of the tree. closer to home then for us anyway in Peterborough, it's just a few shots there. Many of you may know of the damage, thinning of the crown, the canopy, a tired appearance, loss of leaf, and then I think you can probably just see there on the left there's development of epicormic growth there as the tree struggles for survival. And then on the right there we see that there's actually trees there which were killed in a matter of a year, because I was involved when I was in private practice of treating some of those trees, and although we didn't see it in the photo, there were trees which were perfectly healthy which had been treated in 2012 next to ones which were completely dead. So there's the map then. That's the spread of, I shouldn't say it's the spread, it's the regulation of emerald ash borer. That's a plan from the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, and significant increases over 2014, moving into northern Ontario a little bit further and noticeably into Quebec. I don't believe that anybody is keeping any details of specific confirmed finds of emerald ash borer. I believe that there was some talk of a program called EDMAPS Ontario, where people could record their finds of EAB, and then a map would be published, but to my knowledge that's not available yet. That would be useful, because we find that the public and many people we talk to, that map I should say, can get a bit misleading in that people think that that's an entire infestation over southern Ontario. There will of course be heavy infestation in the southwest there, but only really scattered infestations hopefully throughout the sort of mid area of Ontario there. The main problem that well, the main point that we try to get across to people when we talk to them, and all urban foresters will have to make this point, that there's no zero cost option. So whatever your approach to emerald ash borer and the management of that, you're going to have to spend some money. Unfortunately, you know, as tree owners, municipal and private, and woodlot owners, we're all responsible for our own property, so that we will have to foot that cost. I suppose the only advantage, and it is quite a considerable advantage, is that the research and the development and the science is being done for free, and that we're getting a great deal of benefit from that. So our collaborative working then, as I said before, we're working with other affected municipalities and regions: Oshawa, Oakville, Pickering, Newmarket as well. We're looking at current best practice and applying that, the current advice from the Invasive Species Centre, Society of Municipal Arborists there, Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry, and we're sharing those resources, if you like, and experience as well. So our first steps, as I say, if you have an inventory, if you have an existing inventory, your problem's a lot easier. We didn't, so we had to sample here. It's a bit of a chicken and egg sort of situation, where to get an inventory done you need to ask for money in advance of being able to tell them about a problem. So we had, with existing resources, only a capability to sample and then extrapolate that across the city, and then use that to leverage some monies. So then we produced our EAB plan, worked up cost estimates, got our council approval, and then obviously got our resources to deal with it. So our sample inventory then done in 2012, there's a small area there shown. We located all of the ash trees, just ash trees, not other species, and assessed and graded those, and then produced our management plan, which followed a similar format, it seems, for nearly all municipalities, in that mostly they'll start with an explanation of EAB, the impact of EAB and what it means for the particular municipality, assessing some actions, identifying costs, and then hopefully obtaining those resources. There's the Knight's mortality curve for ash, which I believe everyone's familiar with, probably. Really just showing that the infestation starts off, it builds up, the insect reaches overwhelming numbers and causes intolerable damage to the trees, and they all start dying rapidly within a short period of time. So we put our figures against it from our sample areas and looked at the three options really. Option one, that's a necessary process to go through for council, because obviously the questions are always asked, what if we don't bother with treating any trees, what if we treat them all, or whatever. So we came up with the three options, and basically costing those out on the estimated number of ash trees that we had. You can see there that the blue line, option one, removing all the trees as they die, gives a almost unmanageable peak in resources needed, both in people power, if you like, and arborists available, and as well as money as well. And most municipalities will always want to try not to spend as much money and try to spend that evenly. The second option then, treating all of the structurally sound trees, it's a high cost, but it is even throughout the term of the plan. And I should have added incidentally that our plan is a 10-year plan. It's likely to be extended to 15 years. We picked 10 years in the first instance because it seemed to be what most people were doing, but I think probably 15 years is going to be more appropriate. And then that third option, the combined treatment and removals program, which is recommended by many at the moment, the start and finish of it is the lowest cost. Is the mid-range of the cost, significantly lower than treating everything, slightly higher, but not too much higher really than removing all of the trees. But that mid-area of the plan, if you like, those middle years of the plan, is a significantly lower cost than treating all of the trees. And then we did look at benefits as well. That was very important. We do try in Peterborough. Our approach now is to talk about trees in terms of environmental benefits via the suite of iTree tools, rather than using CTLA, which is the Council of Tree and Landscape Appraisers valuations. We like to talk about trees in terms of benefits, so that putting our benefits using the National Tree Benefit Calculator, we looked at those, and as you can see the options there, the red options, which is option one, removing all of those trees as they die. We all start off with three options at the same benefits, but we rapidly lose and eventually lose all of our benefits from ash trees, which incidentally we estimated around $800,000 annually. Our second option then was treating all the structurally sound trees. We don't lose those benefits, and there's a slight dip as we probably lose some of the less desirable ones, and they're maintained over the term of the plan, those benefits. And our option three then, that was, we do lose some benefits early on. Option three is the purple. We do lose some of our benefits early on, but they even out and we don't entirely lose them. And probably what that chart doesn't show is that if we take that forward, say another 10 years, what we'll find is that we start to lose benefits from the green, which is treating all of the trees, because they're eventually reaching the end of their life cycle. The purple will start to move up then as the mixture of removals and replacements and treatments kicks in, if you like, and the new trees start to grow and replace the environmental benefits that were lost. And then that last one, that option one, there is replacements, but it's always going to lag behind the second option as replacement trees catch up. And then just to put a couple of some figures on it, rather, the option one, 5.3 million. Those heads there, incidentally, calculating from a lot of those figures from the National Tree Benefit Calculator, and also the Canadian Forest Service ash protection model. we've calculated treatments. I'm afraid, unfortunately, we did calculate that we were going to get some money back for the wood. It doesn't seem that way at the moment, but more of that later. A constant cost there, and it's important to build that into your plan, is a constant inventory monitoring and reassessment. That stays throughout the term and it's constant. Removal costs there, you can see how they've been set against the model and they're peaking. A huge amount of money needed in 2018 on the basis of our plan there. Coming out then at 5.3 million over the 10-year term of the plan. Our second option, treating all of the trees, a much higher cost, but even throughout the plan. And then our third option, the hybrid plan, a mixture of treatment and removals, slightly much less actually. If we look at the 2018, we'll see that it's appreciably less cost than option one. And that coming out to 4.9 million. That's usually the big sell for the plan because it's the cheapest one, and that's it is also the most effective one, but that's the real sell for council. So our detailed inventory followed on. We were successful putting that plan forward. We obtained resources for the plan over the term of the 10 years. So then we could then embark on our inventory proper, and that's those areas you might want to think about are the scope of the inventory, the requirements for data, annual updating, and obviously costs. Ours, like many people's, will be focused on risk, and that's primarily then trees in the right-of-way, and we picked the periphery and trails within what we'd call our manicured parks. We're now obviously going into parks, other parts of parks, and what we might call open spaces, woodlots, etc. Something to think about then, ash only, all species, your level of detail, and most important indeed is geolocation, which I think most people would consider definitely a must in any inventory. All species, when we put out an RFP, a request for proposals, we got a very poor price generally from bidders for ash only, because not only do they not know where the ash trees are and not know the travelling distance between them, but they're spread sporadically over the city, and that's an unknown for any bidder. Whereas if you pick an all species inventory, you get much more detail. Obviously, you're able to put your species, your composition of ash in relation to all the other species you have, which is very important in management terms. But bidders know that they're going into a street and they're going down the street and how many trees they can pick up. So it's a much better value for money. And then our detailed inventory is just some of the things that we thought were important. We can't collect everything. I think we got, at one stage, we got about 35 or 40 different pieces of information we could collect about trees. We had to pare that right down and just get what we needed to get the job done, such as, obviously location, species, diameter at breast height, which our treatment and removal costs are based on, condition, and then our ash tree grading, which I can speak about a bit more later. Trunk wood, which was that was from Jeff McMahon at Markham, suggested that, and we thought that was a great idea. Just really a length in meters of everything that can't be fed through a chipper, so less than say 8 inches, 20 centimeters, to give you an idea of the wood waste, if you like. I hate to call it waste, but the wood that you'll have left over that you might be able to utilize in some way. Trunk flare, so that we can put out tenders for stump grinding, which are very often bidders will base that on a square inch. And then identifying planting spaces as well, because it was important for us. We felt, and we still feel, that we're ahead of things, that we don't have a heavy infestation, and that if we can remove things proactively, then we can start to replant before we even get into the worst stages of the infestation. And then our ash reassessment is most important. We take a picture of each ash tree. We want to build up an audit trail, if you like, of each ash tree, of how it improves, if you like, sometimes, or if it declines, what the effect on untreated trees is. Dead trees particular, we need to know when they died, and then we're probably going to work around a period of about 12 months before they must come out, before they, in most people's opinion, become dangerous and could possibly be wind thrown. So those results then gave us a great deal of information about ash distribution, size, condition, grading. It gave us the ability to target our monitoring much more, branch sampling. For instance, we target our branch sampling in areas of stressed green ash, or where that are in only moderate or poor condition, and are near high trafficked areas. We can target our treatments on those best trees that have got a good long life expectancy. We can plan our removals geographically and by size as well. That is made, our detailed inventory, our ash tree inventory and our all species inventory are publicly available. That allows people to, if they feel it's not a city tree, it does belong to them, or vice versa, then they can contact us, and we can sort of carry them on along with us. It's a shared problem, if you like. It's the municipality, we're hopefully guiding it and setting an example, but we do want the entire involvement of the community, as we're never going to pull it off really successfully. And then that guides our replanting choices, because we want to try and perhaps, it's difficult in Canada, I know, and being an Englishman, I really do know, it's difficult to get that diversity, that species diversity. It's a very limited palette of species that we can choose from, but if we know our species composition, we can hopefully work towards evening things out a little bit, if not diversifying a great deal. And there's just a shot there of our publicly available ash tree map that we've got there. You can see there on the left-hand side, we show the trees which are not treated, not visited. That's just for some reason it wasn't undertaken, but partly treated. There won't be too many of those. That's just if for whatever reason the tree wouldn't take the chemical, and the treated. So the important ones there really are the treated trees, the trees which we're looking at, they're ongoing. Mostly that's a size thing, that we don't remove trees which are less than 20 centimeters dBH, and we're sort of, if you like, we're sitting on the fence a bit. It may be that they're not in poor shape, and I did take advice, I note the advice from many other urban foresters in municipalities that ash, when it's in poor condition, will recover relatively quickly for reasons, if you like, other than emerald ash borer. And then those blue ones there to be removed, that gives us an advance, if you like, on our replanting program. We will take those ones out for whatever reason. They're not in good condition, they're very poorly positioned, they're causing many infrastructure problems or conflict with utilities. It's better suited that if we remove those trees as soon as possible and start replanting to lessen the environmental impact of losing so many ash trees. You can click on each tree, by the way, and you can get a quick summary of the information we've got about it. And then that goes, the next slide there, that goes on, and we've got an all species inventory as well, which is more detail there. That's when we got our information there. That's a heat map using Esri maps for Office there, and when we feed our DBH in, Deb McCullough of Michigan State University was very kind in lending me a spreadsheet which enabled me to feed in figures there which would give us a square meterage, if you like, of phloem cells, or if you like, the food source that's available for the insect. So we can then extrapolate that out and show potential numbers of EAB. And then produce a heat map from that, so we know where our hotspots are, if you like, concentrations of ash, and it's not necessarily about numbers there as well, it's about size of tree. That has an effect on the numbers of insect that can breed, and we specifically target those areas for treatment first, hopefully to optimize our resources. So our plan summary then, if you like, it's informed by sampling and inventory. We utilized our existing resources wherever possible. We do have a forestry crew at the city. They're unfortunately so hard-pressed with their own day-to-day work, their non-ASH, non-EAB work, that it's been quite difficult to take them away from that. So some of our work obviously has to be contracted out. We continually assess our treatment options. Like many others, I guess, embarking on treatment, you probably be triazine. It's the weapon of choice, if you like, for us, because it's not a neonicotinoid. It's least toxic, it seems, of all those chemicals, and it's got some great results, as we've seen from many years of study in Oakville, and we're more than happy to use that. Obviously, we all have concerns about repeat treatments and constant drilling into trees, but bioforests have been very proactive in looking at things and examining the effects of treatment with triazine, so we're kept up to date with that. And then most importantly, the plan is not a static thing, it's a dynamic thing, and we constantly update. We're in the process of doing another update at the moment for council and the public, which will say basically what we've been doing in 2014, what happened in 2014. And for us, it was our first find of 4, I should say 3.5 EABs. I guess one had been picked off by a bird off the trap, but with subsequent treatments, some removals around those finds, and a lot of branch sampling and scouting for symptomatic trees, we really couldn't find an infested tree. So are we lucky? Have we found just a few outliers? The finds were all in high trafficked areas, so that may entirely be possible, but I'm mindful of all the advice I get from other urban foresters who say, you think you haven't got it, but believe me, it is there, and you'll suddenly find it everywhere. So I'm just rather hoping that perhaps we're maybe a bit ahead of the game. Monitoring and assessment then, we deploy the green prism traps. From last year we started double baiting those with the green leaf alcohol and the sex pheromone. Scouting we undertake, as I say, just walking around or traveling around areas, looking at our concentrations of ash and looking for symptomatic trees. We respond to public calls, and we do get very many of them because we've gone through a couple of years in the recent past of drought, and that's caused ash trees to look very tired and similar in many ways to EAB symptoms, and of course they are also suffering from lilac borer, which tends to move in. So the public see a hole, they see a rough looking tree with a lot of dead wood in it, and to them it's definitely EAB. So we've had a lot of calls about that. And then branch sampling, which we use the Krista Riles Canadian CFS protocol for branch sampling, but to date we found no galleries. So that's our trap locations. We try to concentrate on areas of high traffic, of people movements. We do have a campsite. We've got lots of warning signs around, and hopefully we optimize those locations. That was, I think, 2013, so there were some CFIA traps that year as well. The trapping, as everybody I guess would probably know, there's the sticky green prism traps. We used a bucket truck with our forestry crews, tried to get them high up in the tree on the south side, trying to optimize, if you like, the chances of catching an insect rather than staying relatively low in the tree. As I say, that was last year. We had our first 4 insects in 4 different traps. And there's the branch sampling that we undertake, usually in the fall and winter months there. whittling the bark off with a draw knife, random samples, as I say, and to date nothing's turned up. And then wood utilization, I should just say in the early stages we have started our proactive removals, and we're taking down the worst trees, if you like, the poor condition trees, the dead, dying, dangerous trees, ash trees I should say. There's also some other trees from infrastructure schemes that have been removed in poor condition, so that would really, there's not really much that's salvageable from that. So our first batch, if you like, in that compound, which you can see, our fenced compound, our marshalling yard, was all pulverized with a horizontal grinder to a CFIA spec, and that will be mixed 50-50 with our green waste compost, and we'll use that as a planting and a shrub bed mulch. It's fairly dry, it's beginning to compost down quite well, but we may indeed perhaps just add a bit of nitrogen to it as well, because we're mindful of the carbon-nitrogen ratio that we might have there. I should say our ash tree compound there was set up 2013. We're still very much of the opinion that it's money well spent to try and do all we can to slow the spread and slow the movement, so that, I know it's inevitable, we get the insect and then it spreads, but really there's value for us. We perceive real value in slowing that spread and reminding people not to move firewood. There's our branch sampling. As you can see there, we're looking at all of our poor, if you like, fair to poor condition green ash trees between 15 and 50 centimeters deviation. That gives us a good random sample of trees to go and look at. And that's just that's a bit of an old map. Sorry about that. That's just really a location of our traps overlaid with both our traps and the CFIA traps. Partnership working. That's probably I always leave this to the end, but it's probably one of the most important things. This just isn't going to work unless we can get everyone on board, and we have worked really closely with people. Because of the advantages of GIS, we're able to identify that between us 41 plus ourselves, we cover 54% of the urban forest canopy, which is a huge hit, really, if we can get everyone on board. Those 41, we can't get to everyone, but we can get over half of the urban forest, get the message out there about EAB. So our public awareness then, education and outreach, we just try to hit every means possible to try and get the message through. But I do say that in terms of public outreach, what seems to be the most effective is local shopping malls or places where people don't really expect to find us, and we pop up there and they're going past anyway and they're happy to talk about it. If we hold specific public information meetings in the evening, generally speaking, we haven't had a very good turnout. So we had some signs made up, and I got some help there from Shelley Vestio in Thunder Bay, and gave us the graphic, etc. for that, and we made those up as big 8x4 signs at gateways to the city, and that had a huge impact. A very truncated, if you like, a limited message there to get people thinking and ask a question. And then longer term signage, we've got those on all our park signs now beneath the information about the park, and they'll stay there for the term of the plan, just reminding people that it's coming, that it's going to kill ash trees, and they need to think about managing their own ash trees. There's the green bug suit, which was lent to us by Oakville. Thank you for that. And that was at one of our shopping mall. That was a Green Expo weekend, I think. So that public awareness, then the things that people really want to know is firstly, obviously, how to identify an ash tree, a bit of an explanation about it. Most people we speak to really want to know about removal versus treatment costs, and we've got a great deal of information on that. The treatment options themselves, how it's done. People often ask, can I do it myself? And then replacement species, not forgetting the most important thing really is to get people on board with planting trees, planting new trees. And we have to educate people. It's incumbent on us really as the largest landowner, if the largest stakeholder in the urban forest, we try to lead by example. So we're reinforcing that message about EAB, about how it's coming, the damage it's going to do, not moving firewood, the value of slowing the spread, and the benefits again of retaining trees, and the outlook as well, because a lot of people, as I said before, have said, is it worth it? Is it just going to kill everything anyway? Am I going to have to go on treating forever? All those sorts of things. Our next steps then, as we go forward, we are looking into, we've got an RFP out for hyperspectral imaging at the moment. We would like to take Oakville's lead on that and really try to identify where all the ash trees are on private property so that we can focus on connecting with those people. The ash reassessment goes on yearly, annually. This year will be delimitation surveys. We do expect to find a lot of EAB this year in our traps. Thinking ahead now as the better quality wood becomes available and trees are cut down, about what we can do with it, how we can mill it, the uses that we can put it to as well. We continue with our program. It's been refined since that initial sample inventory, and costs have actually come down a little bit. Costs for treatment seem to have, well, for municipal treatment, really are trimmed to the bone now. They're very good value indeed. I know many municipalities are looking at less than $4 a centimetre, which is just fantastic, allowing us to treat many more trees than we otherwise would. And planning our reactive removals based on those sound management, risk management principles. So with that then, I'll throw it back to David and open for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. That was great. So if anyone has a question, you can enter it into the question panel on the side, and we can try and answer as many as we have time for. Paul, the first question I have for you here is, you don't see trees dying from emerald ash borer in Peterborough right now, so how do you sell the message to the public that it's important to think about when you don't really see the dying trees?
Yeah, that is really quite difficult. You seem to go through this lull, which is what we're in at the moment, where we've put the initial message out there, and we've spoken about it and said how devastating it is and how it's going to be, and then really we're in this lull where nothing's dying at the moment, and people really will, I expect in many ways, think, well, is it coming? Is it not going to hit us? It is difficult, but I think that the way we progress forward is we keep that message going, and we talk about the things that we're doing and the benefits of those, and about replanting, and about the whole other urban forest message we can mix in with that there, and we can use that to keep going. And then when we do get to the first trees that start dying, visibly damaged by the insect, people have got a much more rounded knowledge about the urban forest in general, and hopefully they will be on board with that.
The next question I have for you here is, when you chip the ash trees, is there any chance that there could be eggs that remain viable in the wood chips?
Certainly, we don't think that there would be eggs in there, because if the eggs themselves, if there were any on the outside of the tree, I'm sure that they would be dead by then, and that the cold would have killed them. The removals, because of our slow the spread strategy, if you like, we don't do any removals or pruning of ash trees in the EAB season, if you like. So we don't start those until really October time, and then all our activities with moving ash around, taking trees down, that all happens over the winter time, and then that grinding up, if you like, has all been done by then. And we're assured, because we've done that to a CFIA, Canadian Food Inspection Agency, protocol of no more than 1 inch in any 2 dimensions, then we're confident that any larvae under the bark will have been destroyed, or will really not be able to complete their life cycle and pupate. So that's very confident about moving that stuff around.
Next question here. What what percentage of ash in Peterborough is in natural areas versus urban areas, and do you have any sort of differing management plan for a natural area such as a park or a woodland versus an urban area?
Yeah, it's that's a great question because we're still in early stages of inventory, so that inventory is just ongoing. You know, you can't just do it as a one-off, as a snapshot, if you like, and forget about it. So that we did those high-risk areas, so we can talk about those high-risk areas. But I appreciate that we don't know that much about our ash distribution in parks. We feel that in manicured parks, ash tends to be grouped with other species, and that the loss of those trees is visually not going to be so damaging, and that we probably won't treat many trees in the parks themselves. Natural areas where there's a high percentage of ash will probably follow you know, the generally accepted guidelines. Will probably take out the worst ash. We'll try to encourage regeneration of other species. We don't know that mix, like you say, is what percentage of ash. Overall in the city, we feel that we've got between about 8 and 10% ash. We don't know if that's biased towards natural areas and woodlots or not. We don't actually have that many woodlots anyway, but we do know of some areas of high concentrations, you know, greater than 75% ash. But as a total of land area, they probably don't make up a significant proportion.
Okay, and what percentage of ash trees are you treating?
In the from what we've assessed at the moment, we are running at about 65% of trees in the right-of-way, ash trees in the right-of-way that we're embarking on treating. We've done half of our treatments, so we started our treatments 2014. We have about 50,000 centimeters, so we're doing about, just as a rough approximation, 25,000 each year, and then we're alternating on the 2-year cycle.
Okay, Paul, so if you cannot control privately owned ash trees, is this slow the spread strategy really effective, or what are the challenges with the privately owned ash trees?
That's very difficult as well to determine how effective or ineffective that is. We try through our public outreach and awareness to try to get the message out there. It does depend on how, as many people listening will know, it does depend on how private landowners treat their trees. If they don't take them out early, if they don't want to retain the tree, then effectively they become brood trees, and then assist in many ways numbers building up. Or if they take them down, we really hammer home the message that just don't move the wood, because we would hate for it to go out. We're in cottage country here, and we'd hate for it to go out of the city, or worse still, be brought into the city. So we don't have any control over it, but we hope that with the message out there, people will act responsibly, and that we can give them as much information as possible to make the right decisions.
So do you foresee problems with taking down perfectly healthy ash trees?
Yes, it will be. I mean, we'll take them down in the dormant season, that's for sure. But generally, so far, from the interaction we've had with people, because our cutoff was 15 centimeters DBH, diameter at breast height, we're not going to treat anything smaller than that. So that that makes an appreciable landscape impact. All of the trees 15 or less are going to just be cut down proactively and replaced, and that's really because we feel that we can replace it quite quickly in the landscape. We don't lose a great deal of benefit. They're not a great deal of risk. They're cheap, quick to get out, all those benefits. And then when we sort of get that message across, people are a bit disappointed, obviously, because sometimes they've just moved into a new subdivision and the trees just got going, and really they're going to lose it. But I think most people are okay with that. The worst ones are the poor condition trees, the bigger poor condition mature ash. that we may have problems with, but that's just really getting a message out there and letting people know that we're taking those trees down and be prepared for it, really.
Do you have a protocol for ash seedlings that you find throughout the city? So if you find a seedling in a natural area, would they be proactively removed, or would you wait for the seedling to get bigger and then potentially become infested until you remove them?
Well, we haven't got that far. It's quite early days for us, so we haven't got that far yet. All I can say about that really is that we've got a number of trees which are very big, if you like, significant heritage ash trees that we are treating, not because of their condition, but because we're going to use those for seed production, and then hopefully we're going to send those off to Angus, and we're going to store those, and then hopefully bring them back, germinate and propagate and plant those out to replace the lost ash in the landscape. In the meantime, we won't have, I can quite easily see we won't have the resources to do such intensive management, and I do appreciate that any seedlings that pop up and become sort of an inch or more are going to be a food source for the insect, but we probably don't have the resources to be able to deal with that.
Okay, I think we have time for just one more question here. So what options are out there for landowners? So if they have ash trees on their property and they want to dispose of them proactively for emerald ash borer, what should they do with their ash trees? So what are their options?
Well, you know, we would just, and we advise people here, obviously cut it down, burn it on site if you can, if you have a proper wood stove. Try not to take it any distance at all, and really, if you can't really do anything, just at least try to store it for a number of years somewhere, so that anything that might be in it is kept at the site where it originated, and it actually dies off in the end anyway. But we can't ourselves. We do from bigger private, if you like, our local college, and that we've made a few exceptions and taken the trees at an early stage in our detection and management, but we're not going to be able to take everything from all the private landowners in our compound and pulverize them and grind those down. So we just spread them, put the message out there that really people to act responsibly, and if at all possible, get those tops chipped as much as possible, and store the wood on site, or burn it in your own wood stove, but don't move it if at all possible.
Okay, well, thank you for a great presentation, Paul, and on behalf of everyone, I want to thank you for joining us today and giving us some insight into the development and implementation of the EAB management plan in the city of Peterborough. And thanks to everyone who logged on today to view our presentation. I encourage everyone to register for our next webinar, which will be held on Thursday, April 16th at 1 p.m. Next week, we will hear about the Asian longhorn beetle and the eradication efforts that are ongoing in the Greater Toronto Area. You can visit our website at www.forestinvasives.ca for more information and to register for the rest of the series. I hope to see you all back here next Thursday. Thanks, and have a great afternoon.